Code 6 on 3.
Code 6 on 3, get on.
What's up, guys?
90 days. That's the clock every rookie cop is running against on night shift, and it starts before the badge even feels real. New officers get handed the graveyard shift almost everywhere, not as punishment, but because seniority picks first and nobody senior wants it. But surviving the hours isn't the actual test. The real one is that somebody is filling out a grade sheet on you after every single call for the next 3 months. And a bad one can end a career you just started. Shift assignments in most departments run on seniority. The newest officer in the building gets whatever nobody with more time on the job wants. What nobody wants is midnights. Rookies describe going straight from the academy to a schedule that starts around 11 at night and ends after the sun's already up, sometimes for years before they earn their way onto anything else. There's no negotiating it. The list gets posted. The senior names take the good hours, and whatever's left belongs to whoever just graduated. Nationally, close to half of all officers work some version of a non-day shift at any given time, which means this isn't a rookie hazing ritual, so much as it's simply how the math of policing has always worked.
Ethical dilemmas. So we've got a few of these to go over through the class, so we're going to do one this morning. So listen as I read the question, and then a few of you volunteer to give me a few answers.
The problem isn't the hours themselves, it's that the human body was never built to run them. A researcher at Georgia State who studies the brain's internal clock has explained that flipping to nights disrupts a cluster of cells called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the part of the brain that tells every other organ what time it actually is. Rookies feel it as fog, a heavy-limbed, slightly drunk kind of tired that coffee doesn't fully touch, because the body is trying to sleep during daylight against every instinct it has. That fog isn't a minor inconvenience. One National Health survey found officers getting less than 6 hours of sleep a night carry an 86% higher risk of a work-related injury than officers getting 7 or 8. Separate research on patrol officers found the injury risk on night shift specifically runs 72% higher than on days. New officers, already the least experienced people on the street, are working the one shift where their own body is fighting them the hardest. An Atlanta officer named Son Tran, who spent his own first year working the overnight shift downtown, a proving ground for most rookies in his department, described the routine that eventually got him home in one piece.
So that truck was okay. I kind of saw this vehicle swerve a little bit to the left.
Sunrise, drive home, talk to his wife about the shift while the day starts for everyone else. Funny videos on the phone to decompress because the brain doesn't just switch off on command. Then the blinds close, the sleeping mask goes on, and he tries to convince a body lit up by morning sun that it's actually bedtime. Some days that works. Some days it doesn't, and the whole cycle starts over on 4 hours instead of 7.
Probably a 6 or 7. I worked here when I was in phase 3.
Food gets worse before it gets better. Stress raises cortisol, cortisol raises appetite, and at 3 in the morning, the only kitchen open near most patrol beats belongs to a drive-through. Rookies talk about learning to eat in the 8 minutes between calls, a burger unwrapped one-handed at a red light, because a real sit-down meal isn't a guaranteed part of the night. Body armor hides the cost for the first few years. Most new officers don't notice the weight until they unbuckle the vest at home, and the t-shirt underneath tells them something the mirror at the station never did. None of that is even the part that actually decides whether the job lasts. For field training, usually somewhere between 12 and 18 weeks, depending on the department. A field training officer rides beside every rookie and fills out a numbered evaluation after essentially every shift. Standard categories, standard scoring. The same sheet used on every trainee in the building, whether the shift was a quiet one or the worst night of the month. Score too low too many times, and the file moves up the chain, and a rookie can be washed out of a job they already passed the academy for.
So I'm doing the officer down today, so I'm still a lot of breath. So still trying to regain it. But yeah, in this case,
Not because they broke a rule, but because a superior didn't like how they handled a routine traffic stop at 4 in the morning while running on 5 hours of broken daytime sleep. Almost nobody outside the job pictures this part. Surviving the calls is only half of it. A report card gets filled out after every single one of them for 3 straight months, while the body is fighting the schedule the entire time. Fail enough of those report cards and the 90 days end early, badge and all, no matter how the academy went.
Good answer. One more good answer. One more. Yes, ma'am.
I would tell him that I wasn't going to do that.
The schedule itself becomes its own kind of isolation. Weekends stop meaning anything when Saturday is just another Tuesday spent asleep behind blackout curtains while everyone else is awake, living a life that used to include you. Rookies describe a particular loneliness that has nothing to do with danger. A phone lighting up with plans they can't make because they're either working or recovering enough to work again, and most weeks there isn't a third option. Old friends stop asking after a while, not out of cruelty, they just run out of ways to plan around a schedule that keeps moving underneath them. There's a quieter cost too, the kind that doesn't show up on any evaluation sheet. Off-duty rookies describe still hearing dispatch tones in their sleep, or flinching at a car door slamming the way most people never would, months after a shift ends. The body stays on alert long after the uniform comes off, because 3 months isn't enough time to teach it the difference between a real call and an ordinary Tuesday afternoon at the grocery store. Somewhere in that first 90 days, most rookies take their first serious call without the buffer of experience to soften it. A fatal crash, a domestic that's already turned violent by the time they arrive, a call involving a child that never fully leaves them. Veteran officers describe watching new partners go quiet afterward in a specific way, not panic, just a kind of stillness.
Y'all know y'all gotta be on the sidewalk.
Okay.
Yeah.
While they try to file the first real memory of the job somewhere they can actually live with it. Nobody grades that part. It happens anyway, usually alone in the passenger seat on the drive back to the station. Headlights sliding across an empty road at 4 in the morning. What gets a rookie through it tends to be small and specific. A veteran partner who slides a coffee across the seat without being asked. A locker room joke that only makes sense to someone who was on the same call. A drive home at 7 in the morning with the radio turned up loud enough to hear something that isn't a dispatcher's voice for once. None of it fixes the schedule. It just makes the schedule survivable, one shift at a time. And most rookies say they remember exactly which partner handed them that first cup of coffee, years after they've forgotten the call that came before it. Which is where the real surprise about surviving those 90 days finally shows up. And it isn't about avoiding mistakes at all. Several field training programs are built, on purpose, around the opposite idea. A field training officer who never actually sees a rookie get something wrong can't evaluate how that rookie recovers once something eventually does go wrong, alone, with nobody riding beside them anymore. The grade sheet was never really scoring perfection. It was scoring the 90 seconds after a rookie realizes they just made an error in front of the one person deciding whether they keep their job. That's the detail almost nobody explains to a new officer walking in on day one.
Well, how about roughly it's going to be 4 out of 30. It's going to be myself and Silva.
The entire evaluation is quietly built around watching how someone fails, not around whether they do. Rookies who make it through those first 90 days describe coming out the other side changed in ways that have little to do with the calls themselves. The sleep gets a little easier to manage once the schedule finally feels familiar instead of foreign. The eating gets a little more deliberate once the adrenaline stops disguising itself as hunger. But the person who walked into the academy and the officer standing at the end of field training rarely feel like the exact same one. And most of them will tell you that's less a loss than it sounds. It's just what the job costs, paid up front, before anyone's even confirmed they get to keep it. Every rookie who survives those 90 days does it the same unglamorous way. One shift, one call, one grade sheet at a time, running on a body clock that never fully adjusts, and a schedule that costs them every weekend they used to have. Most of them will tell you the badge didn't change them nearly as much as the night shift did. So here's the question worth sitting with, especially if you've ever wondered whether you'd have made it. If the job graded you on nothing but how you recovered from your worst 3 months, not your best day, would the version of you at the end still want it?